Hello, my name is Erin Lee Beresford-Streish, and today I will be talking about the role that social media can have as a platform for political change. In Indigenous Peoples Rise Up, the global ascendancy of social media activism, Carlton discusses how unparalleled the internet is as a platform from which activism can arise, explaining that social media is not a conduit or container through which already existing forms of political activism can take place, but rather has established a completely new dynamic of social change. Part of the reasons why this is the immediacy inherent to the internet. As Carlson says, there is a symbiotic relationship between anger and social media, whereby an effect can be an immediate response. Anger calls for urgent action, justice, and restitution, and social media provides the instantaneous connections through which it might move. This aspect of social media makes it perfect for sparking the beginnings of a social movement with a far-spreading reach instantaneously. The ability that a digital landscape has to bridge gaps of physical distance is invaluable to many displaced communities and has made the internet a uniquely excellent tool when placed into the hands of Indigenous people to build community and enact positive change. However, when placed into the wrong hands, these same characteristics can have disastrous consequences. This principle is no better demonstrated than by the role that was played by Facebook in fanning the flames of genocide that was mobilized against the Rohingya people in Myanmar 2016. The political and cultural landscape in Myanmar has long been unstable. The Rohingya, as well as many other religious minorities in the region, have long been persecuted by the Burmese monk majority in the country. This subjugation took many forms, but in August 2016, when the internet, through Facebook's Internet.org scheme, was injected into the nation, things grew exponentially in a way that they only could have through social media. This introduction couldn't have come at a worse time, with other sources of domestic media in the region having lost credibility due to government censorship. A report into the situation showed that many people in Myanmar did not see the internet as existing beyond tools like Facebook, with 40% of people listing Facebook as their primary news source. Researcher Witten Woodring explains, Facebook became popular when conditions in Myanmar were ripe for online extreme speech to occur and for disinformation to remain unchallenged. In Figure 1, you can see one of the many Facebook posts that was made to incite violence against the Rohingya people. In it, the poster attaches an image of a correspondent for the Burmese BBC, who publicly supported the Rohingya in his reporting. It's striking just how normal an image they chose to use in this hate campaign. In it, he sits at the foot of a staircase with a golden light shining on his face, his phone in one hand and his microphone in the other. He strikes an open and informal pose and seems entirely approachable and normal. The image caption sits in stark contrast to this, presenting him as a traitor to the people of Myanmar and suggesting he is purposefully perpetuating fake news through his reporting. Despite its obvious, frightful and dangerous messaging and the fact that the image incited multiple death threats from angry commenters, it did not meet Facebook's guidelines for hate speech, since the man himself was not an ethnic minority, and it was never taken down. The purpose of this post, and those like it, was to very purposefully and publicly shame a specific individual to set a precedent against those who publicly associated themselves with the Rohingya. As one activist put it, people fear being kicked out of their society more than being physically attacked. This idea isn't a new one, and fits cleanly within Stanton's guide of the 10 stages of genocide. Specifically, in its classification of another, its polarization of the topic by suggesting that even associating yourself with this other places you on the other side of some arbitrary line, and in organizing people against them. What was different in this case of perpetuating genocidal thinking was the medium through which these messages were spread. As a report on the situation from Matt Schizler put it, social media offered a unique capability to transform threats into public displays. These posts rely on an idea that is discussed in Indigenous Peoples Rise Up, that being that anger is a busy emotion which leads them where to go. And in this case, where that anger led was a mass displacement of the Rohingya people from their homeland. It is important to note that the internet is not a neutral space in which political activism can simply take place. A report published by Amnesty International highlights how Facebook's prime initiative of driving engagement and corporate profits above all else was a major contributing factor in the violence that occurred. As explained by journalist Therese Tierney, as long as social media platform is privately held, it functions in the manner of a shopping mall and not that of a public space. This being said, social media is also not inherently a negative space for political activism. The Rohingya themselves also benefited from social media as a platform to be able to spread awareness of the horrors that they were enduring, with hashtag Rohingya Now and hashtag Save Rohingya gaining over 24,000 tweets in the span of just 1 hour at one point. In response to the question, is Myanmar better off with or without Facebook, one young Rohingya woman responded, "It will be medicine if you know how to use it, but it will be poison if you don't know how to use it." The internet has shown itself to be a place like no other as a platform for political activism and social change, and we as a society are at a pivotal point in our relationship with it. We have no choice but to learn from the mistakes of our past if we are not to repeat them.